He stole my idea, said I would never make it. 10 years later, he walked into a job interview smiling. What he did not know, I was the one holding the seat this time. Back then, his name was Robert Hensley, Regional Director of Strategy. Sleek suits, gelled hair, and the charm of a used car salesman with a freshly printed MBA. I was just Mike from Product. I wore the same 3 button-downs every week and biked to work because my car had been out of commission for months. I kept my head down, took notes, stayed late, did not complain, until I had an idea. It was not even that revolutionary, just a smarter way to sync up logistics and marketing across different regions. Would have saved us 6 figures a quarter, easy. I spent 3 weeks building the slide deck after hours, mapping every variable. Ran it by Robert for feedback. Thought he might help me push it up the ladder. What a fool I was. The following week, Robert rolled into the monthly strategy call and pitched the entire plan as his own. Word for word. Same color palette. Same bullet points. Even the typo I had missed in slide 9, he copied that too. Sat there with his legs crossed and a self-satisfied grin like he was the second coming of Bezos. I sat in silence, numb. The VP gave him a slow clap. Everyone praised him for thinking outside the box. My inbox blew up with coworkers telling me it looked familiar, but no one said a damn thing aloud. And Robert? He looked straight at me after the call, winked, and said, "Told you it needed polish." From that day forward, I stopped bringing ideas to meetings. Stopped staying late. Stopped pretending we were on the same team. I still did my job, but something in me hardened. He would mock me every chance he got. "So, Mike, you still tinkering with that little startup fantasy of yours?" Then he would laugh, lean back in his chair, and say something like, "Better focus on climbing this ladder first. Dreams are for people with safety nets." What he never saw was the way I took his words and turned them into fuel. I started coding at night, teaching myself systems design, building out the skeleton of the very thing he told me was too ambitious. I still remember the night I registered the domain name for my startup. It was storming outside. I had just pulled a double shift and missed dinner with my girlfriend. I sat at the kitchen table, soaked and starving, fingers trembling from caffeine and fury. But when I hit purchase, something shifted inside me. That was the first spark of real fire, and the first domino to fall. Because Robert had not just stolen my idea. He had handed me a reason to leave. But I would not walk out quietly. I had a plan. After that meeting, after Robert stole my pitch and spit out my future like a chewed-up pencil, I made a decision. I would learn everything I could from the inside, then build something better from the outside. Quietly, patiently, I would let him think he had one. For a while, I played the part, the obedient analyst. I nodded at his dumb jokes, said, "Good point," when he parroted someone else's insight, and pretended I had no interest in climbing higher. I became invisible, but that was by design. I watched the way he operated, the shortcuts he took, the way he sweet-talked his way up the corporate food chain while leaving a trail of burned-out interns and demoralized project leads behind him. He never created anything. He just knew how to twist other people's work into his own brand of genius. And the higher he climbed, the sloppier he got. I saw how he lied about timelines, cooked metrics, and sold shallow wins as strategic masterstrokes. I kept receipts, backups, notes. Not to blackmail him. This was not about revenge. I just needed to understand exactly how people like him won in the system, so I could win without it. Outside of work, I barely slept. Every free second was poured into the startup I kept under wraps. I built the prototype from scratch. Crappy code at first, but functional. I tested it with small businesses I found on Reddit and Facebook groups. Most ignored me. A few gave feedback. One bakery in Oregon said it saved them 10 hours a week. That was the first small victory. I printed that email and taped it above my desk. But then, something shifted. The company brought in a new VP above Robert. A no-nonsense type from Chicago. She was sharp, honest. She saw through Robert almost immediately. I will never forget the look on his face the first time she challenged him in a meeting. Like someone had finally taken the toy out of his hands. Then came the breaking point. We were in Q3 planning. Robert assigned me a ridiculous deadline, knowing it was impossible. When I tried to push back, he laughed in front of everyone and said, "If this startup guy cannot handle real pressure, maybe he should go back to his little blog." That was it. I went home that night, pulled out my dusty old resignation letter, the one I had written but never sent, and hit print. But I did not give it to HR. Not yet, because I had one last thing to do before I left. I waited until Friday. That morning, I came in like normal. Same coffee, same seat, same dead-eyed meetings. But inside, I was calm in a way I had never felt before. Because I knew I was done. The night before, I had stayed up past 3, polishing my pitch deck. The real one. Not some half-baked side project. This was the thing. The startup I had built quietly, piece by piece, while Robert called it a hobby. I had 3 pilot customers using the beta version, 2 small-time angel investors already nibbling, and a pitch slot at a tech accelerator I never told anyone about. I had one folder in my bag. Inside it, my resignation letter, my final expense report, and a copy of Robert's greatest hits. Ideas stolen from junior staff, borrowed strategies, fudged metrics. I was not handing it in. I just wanted the reminder. I had receipts if I ever needed them. At 2:17 p.m., right after our marketing sync, I walked past Robert's office. He was on the phone, feet kicked up on his desk like always. He shot me a thumbs up without looking. I smiled. That was the last time I ever saw him from below. I dropped the letter on HR's desk and walked out into the humid July air like I had just surfaced from underwater. My chest felt tight, not from panic, but from the weight of years lifting off me. No security escort, no dramatic exit, just the sound of my footsteps on the pavement and the thought repeating in my head, it is finally happening. The next few months were brutal. I burned through my savings faster than I had planned. My first investor ghosted. One of my pilot users bailed after his brother-in-law offered to build something better for free. My prototype crashed during a live demo. There were nights I sat in my apartment, 2 fans blowing hot air, ramen on the stove, wondering if Robert had been right. But every setback added fuel. I kept coding. I cold emailed 100 people a week. I pitched at coffee shops, in parking lots, during elevator rides. I worked out of library study rooms and public Wi-Fi zones. I said yes to every offer, every trial, every sleepless opportunity. And then, finally, it clicked. One mid-sized logistics company took a chance on us. Said my tools shaved off nearly 20% from their planning costs in 1 quarter. They referred us to a partner. That led to a contract. And another. I brought on my first employee. Then my second. By year 2, we were profitable. By year 3, I was hiring teams in 2 cities. By year 4, we signed a licensing deal that doubled our revenue overnight. And by year 5, we posted a job opening. Senior Business Strategy Consultant. Guess who applied? The moment I saw his name in the applicant pool, I almost thought it was a prank. Robert Hensley. Same name. Same resume structure. Same overly puffed up buzzwords. Visionary leadership, strategic excellence, cross-functional synergy. He had no idea where he had applied. We had listed the job through a hiring agency with a generic posting. That was by design. He did not recognize the company name. After all, 5 years ago, it was just an idea he dismissed. And now? Now it was incorporated under a brand new label, fresh, slick, and gaining traction with clients he used to fight tooth and nail to land. I stared at his file for a long minute. His recent experience? Spotty. After I left, things got bumpy for him. That new VP? She did not stick around. She cleaned house first. I heard through the grapevine that Robert had been restructured out about a year after I left. Landed a few short-term gigs. Consulting, mostly. Nothing stuck. And now, apparently, he needed a job. Part of me wanted to delete the application and move on. But another part, deeper, colder, wanted him to see where I had landed. Wanted him to realize the kid he laughed at had built the very ladder he was now begging to climb. So I told HR to schedule the interview. I sat in the conference room early that morning, sunlight streaking through the blinds. I kept it quiet, just me, a simple laptop, and his resume open on the screen. I did not even tell my co-founder. This one was personal. The door opened. He walked in, still in a suit, still with the slick-back hair. But there were lines around his eyes I did not remember. A weariness, a slump in his shoulders. He held out his hand, professionally, not recognizing me at first. I took it. Firm grip. Eye contact. Then I saw the flash of recognition. It hit him slow, like his brain refused to connect the dots. "Mike," he said. Not confident. Not sure. I nodded. "Good to see you again," I said flatly. "Please, have a seat." He sat, eyes darting, smiling nervously now. Wow, this is unexpected. I did not realize. I cut him off. Not rudely, just firm. "You applied for a strategy consultant role. Let us focus on that." He nodded, trying to recover, but I could see it in his face, the gears grinding behind his eyes, trying to figure out how the hell I had ended up on this side of the table. I asked the questions, made him pitch ideas, had him explain case studies, and he tried. Oh, he tried to sound sharp, but the edge was gone. His answers were rehearsed, generic. I could tell he had not actually done real field work in years. It was all smoke, mirrors, and LinkedIn fluff, and I gave nothing away. No smile, no revenge speech, just a calm, steady tone as I typed notes and nodded. At the end, he stood and said, "Look, I know we had a weird history, but I've always respected your passion." That word passion tasted like acid in my mouth. I thanked him for his time and walked him out. But inside, I was already drafting the offer letter. I sent the offer through HR that same afternoon. Standard contract, decent salary, mid-level title, nothing flashy, but enough to get his attention. And sure enough, 48 hours later, he accepted. I did not celebrate, did not tell anyone what it meant. I just added his name to the onboarding queue like he was any other hire. But deep down, I was watching every step. When he showed up on Monday, he was all smiles, handshakes with the receptionist, nervous energy. He did not know who to talk to, who to impress. It was a different world now. My world. The days of corner offices and assistants fetching him coffee were long gone. He sat through our orientation slides like any new employee, logged into his new email account, got handed a key card without fanfare. I watched through the glass as our HR manager pointed him toward the open office plan. No private rooms here. No titles on the doors. Everyone shared space. And me? I stayed quiet. I waited. For 2 weeks, I let him work under our department head, Liz, a 27-year-old strategy prodigy who had built her own client book from scratch. She had no idea who Robert was, other than some new guy she needed to whip into shape. She did not hold back. By week 3, I could see the cracks forming. He was missing deadlines, fumbling deliverables. One client flagged him for giving vague recommendations with no real data behind them. Liz brought it up to me in our weekly. "He's not a bad guy," she said. "Just not really useful." I nodded and said I would talk to him. I called him into my office that Friday afternoon. He walked in slow, like he already sensed something was coming. I motioned to the seat across from mine. "I have been looking at your performance," I said. "You have missed 3 key targets. You gave a client a playbook that was clearly copied from a dated competitor pitch. And worse, you listed numbers from a source we do not use." He opened his mouth to speak, but I held up a hand. "I am not here to fire you. Yet. I want to understand one thing." He looked at me tense, anxious, waiting. I leaned forward. "Do you even believe in what we are building here?" He blinked. "Of course. I mean, this company is impressive. It is lean, disruptive." I shook my head. "That is not what I asked." Silence. Finally, he said it. "I underestimated you." I let that hang in the air for a moment. He stared at the desk, not meeting my eyes. "You built something real," he added quietly. "And I can't lie. I regret not seeing it when I had the chance." That was it. The full circle moment. He finally saw me. But it did not feel like victory. It felt like closure. I will admit it. I thought I would enjoy watching him squirm. For years, I imagined this exact moment. Him powerless, unsure. Me calm, in control. I had played it in my head like a movie. But sitting across from Robert, hearing the strain in his voice, watching his shoulders sag like a man slowly realizing his time had passed, it did not feel like triumph. It felt like standing over a fallen opponent who had already beaten himself. He had nothing left to steal. No one left to impress. The sparkle was gone. Whatever fire he used to fake in front of VPs and boardrooms. It was dim now. His words were hollow, practiced. He did not even try to sell himself anymore. That hit harder than I expected. Maybe it was because I knew that look. I had worn it once too, back when I thought I would never escape him. When I used to sit in that old shared office space at midnight, code crashing, bank account dipping into the red, wondering if I had thrown my future away chasing something only I could see. The difference was, I kept going. He never built. He only borrowed. I sat back in my chair, looked him in the eye, and said something I had not planned to say. "I did not bring you here to humiliate you." He looked up, startled. "I brought you here because I wanted to see if there was anything left in you worth salvaging," I said. "You used to be sharp. Under all the arrogance, there was something. But if you want to be part of this, you are going to have to rebuild the right way." I paused, then added, "No shortcuts. No stealing. No hiding behind jargon. He was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded. I do not deserve the chance, he said, voice low. But I'll take it if you are giving it. I handed him a small binder across the table. This is the next project, I said. Your name will not be on the front. You are supporting Liz. You follow her lead. You finish this without cutting corners, and maybe you start earning your way back. He opened the binder slowly, like it weighed more than paper. Then he stood up, gave a small, awkward nod, and walked out. No handshake. No smug smile. Just a quiet man in a borrowed role, trying not to mess it up this time. And me? I sat there, staring at the empty chair, wondering why it suddenly felt like I had outgrown the fight. The Monday after our conversation, Robert showed up early. Not 10 minutes early. A full hour before the rest of the team rolled in. He was in the corner conference room, sleeves rolled up, coffee already cold by the time anyone else had logged in. Liz mentioned it offhandedly in our 10 a.m. check-in. New guys got something to prove, I guess. I just nodded. I had not said a word about Robert's history to anyone. Not to Liz, not to my co-founder, not to the board. They only knew what was on paper. That was intentional. I did not want to bias the team, or worse, turn our office into some personal theater for me to air out old wounds. This was about business. Clean slate. Or so I thought. But then, on Thursday, an unexpected name popped up on our calendar sync. Graham Daniels. The investor who once ghosted me after promising he would circle back in our pre-seed days. Same guy who told me, "You're smart, Mike, but you need someone like Robert on board to be taken seriously." Yeah, that Graham. He was now a partner at a growth fund looking to diversify into logistics tech. And apparently, he had taken notice of our most recent client wins. His request? A meeting. I stared at the invite like it was some kind of cosmic joke. It was scheduled for the next week. No agenda, just a friendly touch base. I forwarded it to my co-founder, Sam, with a note. Your call. But I am not walking into that one alone. Then I hit decline. I figured that was the end of it. But 2 hours later, I got an email. Not from Graham. From Robert. Subject line, we need to talk. I opened it expecting something dull. Instead, it hit me square in the chest. I heard from an old contact at Daniels & Rowe. They know about me joining the team. Graham wants a meeting because of that. I think he is coming back around. And I think he believes he can use me to get inside again. That was the twist. Graham did not just want to invest. He wanted back in because of Robert. And Robert knew it. That night, I stayed late. The building was quiet, the hum of the AC filling the gaps in my thoughts. I sat there staring out the window, thinking back to every door that slammed in my face. Every pitch I gave with trembling hands while people like Graham looked at me like I was wasting their lunch hour. And now, the same people were circling back because of the man who once buried me. I could have said yes. I could have brought Robert into that boardroom, let him charm his old connections, let Graham write the check and spin it into a story. It would have been easy. Fast money. A headline. Former rivals reunite to scale the next big thing. But easy was how Robert built his whole career, and I was not about to let that virus infect mine. Instead, I called a team huddle. Just core leadership. No one else. I laid it out. Graham Daniels wants in, I said. Because he saw Robert's name on our roster. He thinks we owe him our success. He thinks Robert is the brand. There was silence. Sam, my co-founder, looked at me. Is he wrong? That question hung in the air longer than it should have. Was Robert part of the story now? Yes. But he was not why we got here. We built this thing when no one believed in us. We bled for it. Stayed up nights patching code, begging beta testers not to bail. Robert had only been here a few weeks. His name might have opened a door, but we were the ones who kicked it off its hinges. I will not trade what we built for a shortcut, I said. Especially not for someone who walked out on me when I needed backing the most. Liz leaned in. So what do you want to do? I paused. We meet with Graham, I said. But we control the room. We make it clear he is coming to us, not to Robert. And if he tries to rewrite our story, we walk. They nodded. Sam just said, good. Because I never liked that guy. We sent back a new invite. My calendar note just said, let them know who built the house. The meeting came that Friday. Graham walked in with his polished smile, designer briefcase, and a swagger that reeked of old money entitlement. He shook hands, complimented the office layout, then turned to Robert. Still working that magic, huh? He said, grinning. I knew you'd land somewhere sharp. Robert gave him a nod, professional but distant. He had not forgotten either. Then Graham turned to me. So, Mike, heard you two finally teamed up. Smart move. That was my moment. I looked him dead in the eye and said, he reports to me. The air shifted. Graham chuckled, but it sounded thin. Of course, of course. I mean, titles aside, I am just glad to see talent coming together. No, I do not think you heard me, I said. He works under me. And if you are here because of his name, let me save you the trouble. This company was built by the people in this room, not the ghosts of someone's resume. The smile dropped from his face. Robert stayed silent. Graham cleared his throat. I see. I stood. I think we are done here. And just like that, I walked out of the room I once would have begged to enter. After the meeting, word spread fast. Somehow, investors always talk. A few emails from other firms dried up. A couple of potential partners suddenly needed more time. Graham had influence, and turning him down publicly? That made ripples. I will not lie, it stung. For a few days, I felt that old fear creep back in. Like maybe I had overplayed it. Like maybe this was the part where everything started to crack. But then, something else happened. One of our oldest clients, one who had quietly been watching from the sidelines, called me personally. Said she heard about how we turned down a shortcut in favor of principle. Said she respected it. And then she did something I never expected. She doubled her contract. Just like that, the tide shifted. Other clients followed. Not all of them, but the right ones. People who saw what we stood for and wanted to be part of it. People who knew we were building something that could last, not just burn fast and cash out. Robert kept showing up. He was different now. Quieter. Hungrier in a way I had never seen. I caught him one night staying late, reworking a client strategy deck he had gotten shredded over that morning. I stood in the doorway. He did not notice me at first. He was muttering under his breath, editing the same slide for the 5th time. And that moment, it hit me. Maybe this was his second shot. Maybe not at power, but at character. I stepped inside and said, "You are still here." He looked up, surprised. Wanted to get it right. I nodded. "Good," I said. "Because next week, you are leading that pitch." His eyes widened. "Me? Only if you're ready." He paused, then said something I had never expected to hear from him. "I will earn it this time." And weirdly, I believed him. That weekend, I sat alone in my apartment, the same one I had almost lost a dozen times trying to build this thing. I poured a drink, sat on the worn couch, and scrolled through the company Slack feed. Wins. Celebrations. New client onboarding. Birthday jokes. It felt real. Not perfect. Not done. But real. That was when it clicked. The real power? It was never in getting back at Robert. It was in not becoming him. A month later, Robert delivered the pitch. And he crushed it. Not flashy. Not slick. But sharp, honest, and clean. He credited the team. Let Liz take the technical questions. He deferred when he should have. Led when it mattered. For the first time in his life, he did not make it about himself. The client signed. Afterward, he walked into my office, shut the door, and just stood there. "I do not know if I will ever be able to undo what I was," he said. "But this feels like the first real thing I have done in years." He looked around, took in the view from the 17th floor, our name on the door, our logo etched in glass. Then he said the one thing I never thought I would hear from him. "You were always the one with the vision. I was just too scared to follow." I nodded slowly. Took me a long time to understand that none of this was about proving you wrong. He looked at me, confused. I leaned back, hands folded. It was about proving me right. He smiled. A real one. No smirk, no arrogance. "You could fire me tomorrow," he said, "and I would still be better for it." I tapped the desk. "That is the thing. I am not firing you." He blinked. "Not because you earned it yet, but because I think maybe you are finally trying to." He nodded, then turned to leave. But before he opened the door, he paused. "For what it is worth," he said, "I was wrong. About all of it." I gave a half smile. "You were not the first." And just like that, he walked out. Later that day, I passed by the main floor and saw him. No suit, no ego. Just a guy in a company hoodie, scribbling feedback with a junior associate, sleeves rolled up. It was not forgiveness, but it was something close. And me? I opened the old file, the one he stole. I stared at my name in the footer, then hit delete. Because I built the real thing. And that was the only credit that ever mattered. Like, comment, and subscribe if the story got you. See you in the next one.